Alloy 7.
Hey, greetings programs, it's BC from Alloy 7 Video and welcome to my review for Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii. You know I like to start these with the bottom line up front, so let's jump right in. There's one major question this review is designed to answer. Does Xenoblade Chronicles live up to all the hype surrounding it? To put it bluntly, I'd say yes, without hesitation. However, I don't want anyone to go into this experience thinking it's a flawless masterpiece. 10 hours into my Xenoblade playthrough, I was convinced it would be the best Japanese role-playing game I'd ever played. Unfortunately, after 100 hours of play, I became intimate with its shortcomings and many game design choices that annoyed me in the latter hours of play. In the end, I felt the game introduced so many things I love about RPGs, but then curbed my enjoyment with design choices that encumbered these elements. With all this in mind, is Xenoblade Chronicles for you? Let's take a look at how different types of gamers may react to the Xenoblade experience. Bookworms. Humans and machines are at war, fighting a perpetual battle inspired by the gods of each race. In this game, you play as the humans. I don't want to summarize any more than that for risk of some very awesome plot spoilers. But I will say that those of you who play RPGs primarily for the story will probably find Xenoblade to be a mixed bag for most of the game. The plot is interesting, and the delivery does a solid job of keeping you guessing as to what mysteries are going to unfold next. But I felt the unfolding took a bit too long as I started to fatigue from 100+ hours of play. But if you have the strength, definitely hold on till the end. The ending, in my opinion, made up for all of my gripes about slow pacing and uninteresting characters over the course of the game. I even grew to love the main character, Shulk, whom I thought was absolutely boring for 85% of the storyline. Builders. Building in Xenoblade Chronicles centers around three basic mechanics. 1. Learning and leveling skills using AP you earn in battle. 2. Learning and linking passive abilities by just playing the game naturally. 3. Crafting gems and then embedding them into your armor and weapons to customize your characters for battle. I absolutely loved all three of these mechanics and felt Xenoblade handled them perfectly. Unfortunately, the game designers saw fit to limit the player's ability to level by scaling how much XP and AP you could earn in battle based on your level. The purpose of this limit is obviously to stop players from becoming completely overleveled too early in the game, but the problem with the encumbrance is that it's too strict in my opinion. I enjoy questing, exploring, and character building more than anything in RPGs, and what I found was a game that heavily limited my ability to do this without progressing the story. It forced me to play in a way that the game deemed appropriate instead of giving me the freedom to power level at my leisure. Is this a flaw? Absolutely not. It's merely my reaction given my preferred playstyle. But aside from these personal beefs, I felt the aforementioned mechanics were outstanding. Explorers. Xenoblade's world is huge, and humongous would probably be a better term. If you're an explorer, this game will give you a lot to love. As an added bonus, the designers saw fit to litter the world with elements you can use to complete an item encyclopedia, which gives you rare items as you complete its sections. You can also use the more rare items you find on the map to trade with NPCs to help you get more money and even better loot as you progress through the game. On top of all of this, there are secret locations that often have great treasure or mini bosses to fight. And every location in the game yields you XP to help you level your characters. In short, Xenoblade is an explorer's dream come true with a huge world to explore and great incentive for the player to do so. Action junkies and strategists. As I'm known to say, the action and tactics in RPGs center around the combat system, and I believe Xenoblade's combat system is going to affect most players in one of two ways. 1. If you love managing every intricate detail of battles to include A. Ensuring you have the right accessories on your players. B. Knowing exactly what spells you need to cast in order to remove very specific enemy buffs or status ailments they can inflict on your party. C. Knowing which special move to use to ensure a very specific type of damage doesn't destroy your party. D. making sure you cast the spells and use the special moves at exactly the right times, and E, making sure you bring the right party members to certain fights to give you the best chance, or maybe the only chance, of winning, which implies you have an intimate knowledge of your party's strengths and weaknesses. Box this up in a quasi-action-based system, and you will probably love everything about Xenoblade's combat. However, if you're like me and in the second category and think everything I just said sounds like a micromanagement nightmare, then be prepared to become increasingly more annoyed with the combat system the further you get into the game. Xenoblade's combat requires a ton of mental agility. Select bosses also require a bit of trial and error, which I hate, to get beating them right. Strangely, I feel I would have really enjoyed Xenoblade's combat if it had been turn-based, which sounds really weird coming from the dude who prefers action role-playing games. Audio files. Let's make this category really simple. Xenoblade Chronicles is the single best video game soundtrack I have ever heard in my entire life. In fact, I'd put this soundtrack up against many straight-up music albums I've heard in my life. It's really that great. Visualists. Xenoblade won't win any awards for aesthetic realism, but it is very beautiful in terms of artistic style, aside from the horrendous-looking armor sets. Achievers. You completionists out there will have about 160 hours of main and side questing to do, so grab a strat guide, a few pads of paper, and enjoy yourself. Alright friends, so let's talk about the verdict. My playthrough came in about 110 hours and I did most of the side quests, not all of them by any stretch. Most non-completionists who just want to experience the story should be able to do it in around 70 hours, while completionists should expect anywhere from about 160 to 200 hours to complete the game. And as I said before, I absolutely believe Xenoblade lives up to the hype that surrounds it. I even find it strange that the Wii was able to pull off a game like this. But should you run out and buy it, if you love Japanese RPGs, and if you can stomach just a little bit of trial and error, and the occasional limited freedom to be creative in battle, I can't see why not. And that's going to do it for me, friends. Thank you so much for coming out and watching this review, and let me thank you in advance for commenting, especially if you've played the game. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on this review, if you agree or if you disagree. I'd love to hear from you. Also, for those of you that haven't played the game, feel free to ask me any questions you may have, as this is a very hard game to review because it has so much content. Also, be sure to keep up with the Let's Play that's still ongoing, even after this review is complete. I have a link where you can find that. And other than that, folks, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and stick around for the next show. Until then, friends, until all are one, this is BC, this is Alloy 7 Video. Peace and Godspeed.